Today, my fellow prosecutor and I, Jamal Calloway, will present the incontrovertible evidence that global warming exists, that the fossil fuels companies know that and have known it for 40 years, and that major responsibility for the deadly disruption in life-sustaining climate systems lies at their doorstep. If anyone thinks that climate change is something happening in faraway places, these are images just from the last year in the United States. On January 6th, there was a news report of 35,000 cows found dead after a blizzard in Texas and New Mexico. The East Coast, as you know, had our mega snowstorm dumping almost 30 inches in New York. February 2nd saw severe storms and tornadoes tear across Alabama and Mississippi. There was a 60-degree temperature change in 2 days, from -1 on February 14th to 58 degrees on the 16th. On February 25th, 7 people died as 50 tornadoes swept across the South, from Virginia to Florida. And then, as if it weren't enough, another record-setting typhoon hits the Fiji Islands, the strongest tropical cyclone on record in the southern hemisphere on February 21st, completely leveling some areas and causing 43 deaths. Christmas Eve, we all remember the warmest ever, 72 degrees. Christmas was 66 degrees. Of course, the warmest December on record. And today we have 75 degrees, even though I haven't been outside yet. But that's another jump of 50 degrees from 25 on Friday, and just a couple of days later. This is climate chaos. So it seemed to me that we were reaching tipping points. And then the terrifying news came that last Thursday, on March 3rd, for a brief period, the Northern Hemisphere registered a 2 degrees Celsius rise. The first time in the history of human civilization, we reached the famous 2 degrees Celsius red line that's supposed to be set for avoiding catastrophic climate change. So all we keep hearing is record-breaking, record-breaking, record-breaking. The alarm bells are ringing. I remember sitting in my apartment bracing for Hurricane Sandy's onslaught, and I was filled with anger. This is so unnecessary, I said. There's no reason for this to be happening. And I asked myself aloud, why doesn't Exxon pay for the recovery from the wreckage instead of the government? In other words, you and me. None of the climate-related destruction we've seen so far was necessary. It was made possible by an industry that, like the tobacco industry decades ago, knew full well what continued use of its products would do, and yet chose to put its bottom line ahead of human lives. Not only did they move full speed ahead marketing oil, coal, and gas, but designed and funded a campaign aimed at every level of society, from lawmakers to average citizens and even to children, to hide the facts and deliberately deceive the public. Exxon bears particular responsibility for the deceit because it led the pack. After its own scientists had warned the company executives as early as 1977 of the dramatic consequences of large-scale burning of fossil fuels. A myopic and suicidal vision, to be sure, but the other members of the American Petroleum Institute soon joined the chorus. While hundreds of the world's top climate scientists kept crying out for urgent, deep cuts in carbon emissions with every UN report, the oil companies spent millions convincing people that global warming was a fallacy. Had they acted with mere common sense, let alone any measure of ethics, they would have shifted their investments to the production of clean energy. Instead, blinded by greed, they caused us to lose precious decades needed to implement solutions that would have prevented our current state of crisis. The monstrous immorality of the fossil fuels industry's choice of financial gain over concern for planetary peril has already resulted in massive destruction and loss of life around the world that is on track to intensify in the coming years. Its soulless depravity is impossible to comprehend, and flies in the face of the most basic tenets of any civilized society, judging right from wrong. To knowingly place humanity and all life forms in harm's way is a criminal act of the greatest magnitude. The world has never before faced the ecocide that looms on the horizon. No region is immune, no nation will escape, not even those who have amassed fortunes, but some will surely suffer more than others, as they already do. And they will be the vulnerable and the blameless, compounding the moral weight. Hundreds died in Superstorm Sandy. Thousands were killed in Typhoon Haiyan. Hundreds of thousands have perished from famines in Africa due to climate change. In a world that counts 196 nations and more than 5,000 distinct tribes, will not those who poison the earth be liable for some 5,200 counts of crimes against humanity? Hiding the truth about climate change, forbidding weather reporters from explaining the reasons why we're getting extreme weather, takes away people's ability to protect themselves, leaves them defenseless in the face of danger. It's like taking someone blindfolded to the edge of a cliff and walking away. The God of life did not put us on this earth to destroy it. To endanger the magnificent gift of creation is sheer sin, a great offense. It implies taking God's place. And to elevate Mammon, the god of money, above the God of the universe represents the most grievous sin of idolatry. We still have a chance to avoid calamity, but it will take a fully aware society to halt the insanity. As Leonardo DiCaprio exhorted in accepting his Oscar award, we cannot procrastinate. Our task today is to arm ourselves with the facts that will empower us to pull the world back from the brink. Many have given their lives in this struggle, and I would like to ask for a moment of silence for one of the latest victims of the rampant greed in our world, for Berta Cáceres, a courageous indigenous leader and environmental champion, assassinated last week in Honduras, in the midst of her people's struggle to protect their river from the ravages of a hydroelectric dam. Her family is seeking justice as they mourn her death and give thanks for her life. Let us unite our spirits with theirs. So in faithfulness to God's charge to defend life, let us hear from our first witness.